Well, thank you, Justin, and I appreciate all you to help our economy grow in Shiawassee County and throughout region. And it's great to be with you. We've done this before. I think we did a Zoom call last time, and but I appreciate the chance to be with you. Everybody, can you hear me? Okay.
Yep, you're good, John.
Okay, all right. I'll just give you a quick update. I know everybody's tracking different things right now, but job number one is to defeat this virus, and there's a lot of work being done on that. I sit on the Health Subcommittee of Appropriations, where we fund the National Institutes of Health, the CDC. I'm also on the Agriculture Subcommittee, which oversees the FDA, and all these agencies are all hands on deck working on developing medicines that will help, treat the virus as well as prevent the virus. And I think good progress is being made. It certainly is something that, hardly a day go by where there's not something in that, either from a health standpoint or from an economic standpoint. And my goal is to get this virus behind us, and I think we will. But then, our job is going to be to how do we rebuild our economy and restore our way of life, and so that is the next step. That I think all the underlying economic factors are strong for our country. I think the USMCA trade deal is really going to be good for manufacturing, and we've certainly got a lot of manufacturing in our area in Shiawassee County. And agriculture, I think with the new markets in Canada for dairy, that's especially going to be helpful as well. So I'm optimistic about the future, but we certainly have had our challenges, and in my district we also had some flooding concerns, and we had two major dams fail, and historic flooding that really has been difficult. And so we had a major disaster declaration declared, and we're rebuilding from that. We've received a lot of good support from the Small Business Administration, the USDA, Rural Development, as well as FEMA. And so a lot of challenges right now, but overall, I'm very optimistic about our future. I also just want to mention, I supported the CARES Act, and, I think part of that was the Paycheck Protection Program. I think that was very successful, and I know a lot of businesses participated. In fact, over 90% of the employees that are employed by small businesses in my district benefited from that program. There's still $138 billion left in that program, and I, along with others, have been advocating that we should get that money out into the economy, and even signed a discharge petition to take it up on the House floor. But as you know, it's tied up in a lot of negotiations over, plans to spend additional dollars, and, there's not an agreement. I think all of us want to make sure our kids go back to school safe and healthy. We want to make sure our hospitals have the protective equipment they need, and we want to make sure people stay employed. But some of the other proposals to fund things that really aren't COVID related have been sticking up the negotiations. And so as of right now, we don't have an agreement. We are basically on 24-hour notice that we could fly back to Washington, D.C. at any point and work on next round of relief. But still no agreements on that front. But I would advocate for releasing that PPP, Paycheck Protection Program funding immediately, and get those dollars out there so people can stay working and our economy can stay strong. And we're going to come back from this, but as all of you know, there's just a lot of challenges. I hope everybody's been able to stay healthy and safe, and economically, I know these are challenging times, but we're going to get through this. But Justin, with that, why don't I turn it over? We can have specific, discussion on any issues that you'd like to talk about, especially this idea of reopening the Paycheck Protection Program that I think would be vital.
Yeah, thank you, John. And I know we have some questions, I'm sure, from the callers, but I do want to give you a stat question on PPP. So just so you all know, we ended up having almost 600 Shiawassee County businesses receive funding for PPP, totaling somewhere between 60 and 70 million dollars. So thank you, John, for your leadership on that. That was a major lifeline for a lot of our small businesses. Actually, I have two questions on PPP. One is, would this allow companies that already had one bite at the apple, that already received one PP loan, could they go back again? So that's one question for a second round. The second question is, I've had some questions regarding the small PPP loans, the under 150,000, that there might be some legislation or push to try to get those automatically forgiven without all the paperwork. Can you speak to both of those issues?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, both of those require legislative action to move forward on. But I would tell you where I am on both of those is I would like to see that loan forgiveness for under 150,000. I'm actually a co-sponsor of some legislation to that effect, because I do believe that given the nature of what we've been through, I would rather see our financial institutions and our businesses, working to help people navigate through this and lessen the burden of compliance paperwork for the lesser dollar amounts. We want to make sure there's integrity in the program, and I think focusing on where some of the large dollar amounts went, makes more sense than focusing on some of the paperwork that would be required for that level of compliance. On the other part, I would recommend and I would advocate for people who have been through this in the first round to be able to apply for the second round. I certainly, respect that, we want to make sure it's open and available for people who haven't participated yet, but I don't think it should be a disqualifying effect that says, hey, because you helped keep your employees on the payroll and kept our economy going, I wouldn't want to disqualify you from the next round. And so that would be what I'll advocate for as we go forward.
Excellent. Thank you, John. I have some more questions, but I want to open it up to the floor. So if anybody on the phone has a question for John, please go ahead and ask. Anyone have any questions for John? Okay, I'm going to jump right back in then. I got a few questions from folks prior hand, John, that I wanted to throw out to you. So infrastructure funding, I actually just got a message on that from someone a little bit ago. What does that look like for roads and bridges and things like that?
Well, it's a great question, and I think there is bipartisan for infrastructure funding. It's just a matter of kind of when we get to that priority. I think right now we've been so focused on, keeping the economy afloat, but actually investments in infrastructure to me make a lot of sense to keep our people employed and keep moving the economy forward. So, I can speak to, a few things. Just the Sioux locks, we continue to move forward on building a new lock at the Sioux locks, and I'm very grateful for the president's leadership on that and working with him to, that's the first time in 30 years where Congress has authorized it twice, but we were able to appropriate funds with the president's support. And, that's going to be the iron ore that comes, through that we use for manufacturing and autos and other appliances. So that's a real successful project that's moving forward. And, I know in mid-Michigan, there's a lot of roads and bridges that need work. I think, when we saw that dam failure, 2 dams fail, it was a good reminder that you can't get behind on maintenance on infrastructure without consequences. And so I think, to me, that has really increased heightened the urgency of putting resources towards making sure that we do fund infrastructure. So some of that, we've got the appropriations process is is, you know, at a point where we have a continuing resolution through December 11th. We'll come back after the election and work on, you know, the final spending plan for the fiscal year. But I'm hoping that we'll be able to fund these important infrastructure projects that have been identified as part of the, you know, priority list.
Okay, very good. I do have another PPP question too, but I'm going to open up the floor. If anyone has any questions for John, you're not muted today, so you don't need to hit *6. Just go ahead and ask your question. Okay, I'll jump in and ask my other question. So I got another note here, John. This is back to PPP. This may be a little technical, but I'll just read what I got here. There is a crisis looming for businesses who received the funding. When this was created, businesses were told that they could still claim these expenses on our 2020 taxes. After calculating the tax liability projection for 2020, we find out that these are not deductible. This will leave businesses with huge tax liabilities. It would be greatly appreciated if this topic could be addressed, especially during this time when businesses and their CPAs are doing their projections. So it sounds like there might be some tax liability. Can you speak to that?
You know, I got the note that's a concern, and I will look into that and see what is in the works to fix that. You know, I'm hoping that it's more of a technical fix than a philosophical fix, because what you're saying makes complete sense to me. But I just don't know the specifics well enough on that, but I will find out as we go forward and get back to you on that, Justin.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you, John. Okay, let me open up the floor again. We got a good turnout today, about 30 people on here. Anybody have any questions for John on any topic? John, I'll keep asking since we've got folks on still. I got all kinds of good questions. What you talked about a little bit about the CARES Act. Obviously, I know the president came out the other day and said that there wouldn't be any negotiating until after the election. What are you hearing as far as the deal in terms of stimulus? What are the major parameters that are involved?
Well, I think right now there are areas of agreement. For instance, I think if we put a bill on the floor, and we've actually requested the speaker do this, to expand the PPP, I think that would pass. Now, the challenge is she's trying to incorporate a lot of other things, funding for state and local government, other areas.
Oh,
and
there
so
you go. I know.
So I think that the challenge is going to be, how do we keep it tightly focused on recovering from the pandemic and the priorities within that. You know, when you look at the travel industry, what they've been through, and I know that affects Shiawassee County and, you know, transportation. And so, you know, our hospitality businesses have really been affected. So my hope is that we'd be able to focus on that rather than some of these other areas that are more of a political wish list. And so I think when the president said he's done negotiating, he's done trying to work with the speaker on sort of this comprehensive approach that funds a lot of her wish list, and instead says, let's focus on the key areas of agreement that we can target resources to those most in need right now. And so push those things, but it's kind of this idea of, you know, we already spent $3 trillion on the CARES Act. I think we need to be tightly focused on, you know, the key priorities in this next round so that we don't, you know, do further damage to our economy from deficit spending.